Okay, you have to make a slight incision at the back. So you have to lift the skin a little, alright, and then make a slight incision. See? Okay, so while you are cutting, you lift it a little, so you can see that you have separated the skin from the underlying muscle. You can now make use of the blunt end of the scissors. Okay, so you make a mid-dorsal incision while pulling the skin upwards. Okay, and then you can do the same downwards, or if you want, you always remember that you only pull the scalpel, you don't push the scalpel. Okay, so you cannot do that way. You can use the scissors, but it's very awkward to do scissors backwards, so you might want to use the scalpel. You can insert your fingers in here. Just make sure you don't cut your fingers. Okay, so you go this way. Okay, and then you can make an incision this way into the leg and on the forearm later. Now, if you have a hard time cutting the connective tissues, you can use your scalpel, but make sure that you hold it close to the muscle, the back, no, to the muscle as much as possible. Alright, you can cut. Okay, keep the blade as close to the skin as possible so that you don't damage the muscles, and then eventually. You can use a little force. Alright, there is no more muscle beyond this. So, come on. Here. Okay, so there is no more muscle beyond this part. So you can leave the skin on the foot. Okay. Okay, so you can see that if you use your fingers, this is relatively clean and smooth. Okay, and then we move up to the head, and then here, and then to the side. Oops.
Hey, Marshall.
Okay. You might need some help from a probe. Taba lang naman pala yun. Okay lang. Okay. So, right here, Okay, take note of this one. Alright? So, we will grade your dissection, and you have to make sure that you don't damage this muscle. Okay? This is the CP humeralis. It is connected to the CP sternum here. Okay, so the muscle goes this way. And chances are, when you just pull this off, you will damage this muscle. Okay, it's a very, very thin muscle. So you make sure that you keep it in the chest and not on the skin. Okay? And then when you go this way, into the arm, right? Into the arm here, there is a muscle that hangs loose from the brachium on the upper arm into the forearm. That's called the brachioradialis. Okay? It's a very slender muscle that hangs loose here. So again, if you just cut it here and then pull the skin, you might remove that also. And so you get an extra 2-point deduction. Okay? So, you only watch out for those muscles. In the frog, you remember that there is a gracilis minor in the leg, but it is very large in the mammal, so you don't have to worry about it. Okay? Ikot ko. So again, there is no more muscle. Where is my here? Okay, there is no more muscle here, so we may cut the skin from here. Alright. So now we move to the front. You may do the other side if you want to. Okay, but for purposes of demonstration, I'm moving to the front. Okay, so again, here is the muscle that you have to make sure you don't remove. Muscular system, we are only referring to the skeletal muscles. Okay, and so these are skeletal muscles. You have to look at their origin and insertion on bones. Okay, so with reference to the muscles of the neck, these are our reference points. Okay, such that at the base of the neck, forming a V, okay, would be a muscle that goes this way and goes that way. Right. So, based on the direction, this is called sternomastoid. You see the pattern, sternomastoid. And then right here at the mid-ventral line, okay, you'll find a pair of muscles that should end somewhere here, right? So, sternohyoid. Now, if we deflect the muscle, right? So, let us say that I cut this and I deflected it sideways. Okay, so you will find a muscle that runs here from the sternum to the thyroid. Actually, thyroid is the thyroid cartilage of the larynx. Okay, the thyroid cartilage of the larynx So from the sternum to the thyroid cartilage, you'll find another muscle there, the sternothyroid. And then slightly above that is another muscle that goes up, the thyrohyoid. Okay, this is the nomenclature. And then here you will have another muscle. When you refer to the clavicle, it's a clado. Okay, so from here you go cladomastoid. Right, cladomastoid going that way. So another muscle here going this way, cladomastoid. And then if you consider this as the mandible, yung lower jaw, alright? So you'll find a muscle that runs here as the digastric. Okay, so this time it does not follow your reference points with reference to the bones. Okay, in the neck of the rabbit there is a depression here, and then you'll find, just like in the frog, what is this muscle? The mylohyoid. Okay, and then if we cut across this, you'll find a muscle that goes this way, the geniohyoid. Okay, so from this we have identified the muscles of the neck. Okay, of course the one on this side, yung cheek here, is the masseter. Okay, so the cladomastoid cannot be seen directly if you just look at the sternomastoid, because this is partly covered by the clavotrapezius. Okay, so the clavotrapezius goes this way, and then the clavobrachialis goes that way. So the cladomastoid is partly covered by that. So we'll show that later on. Okay, so to remove only part of the skin in the cheek. Okay, so let's start with the cheek here. Anyway, it's isolated. So muscle number 1 is the masseter. Masseter. Okay, and then muscle number 2. Here you can you see this muscle here? Yan. Okay, this one goes up here, the other one goes up there. Now the problem here is the chances are you have something tight here, right? That's the external jugular vein, and so the formalin was passed through the external jugular vein going to the heart and to all the arteries of the body, so you embalm the entire rabbit. Okay, at any rate, you can see that this forms a V here at the base of the neck. So we'll call that the number 2 set. Ito sir. Ay, yun. Okay, so we call that the sternomastoid. Okay, number 3. Alright, so again, we said this muscle here, okay, this muscle here is the sternohyoid, going to the hyoid there. So we'll put the pin here. Now, if we deflect the sternohyoid, we can see here okay, this one is the sternothyroid. Okay, so this is partly hidden by the sternohyoid, sternothyroid. And then, if we go this way, these are just lymph nodes, so you may remove them. Again, the sternothyroid stops here, and then the thyrohyoid goes straight up here. Okay, that becomes the thyrohyoid. And then we have, this is the cricoid cartilage of the larynx. So there is a muscle here. You see the brown part here? Now that's the cricothyroid. Okay, and then we have to press the jaw a little. Okay, and so here is the mandible, and here is the muscle that we call the digastric. Okay, so I'll put the pin here, and then this is the mylohyoid. So again, we put another pin there. And then we make a slight incision on the mylohyoid. Although we can hardly see the there. Okay, so here the muscle goes up here longitudinally, so we refer to that as the geniohyoid. So we have not located the cleidomastoid, right? So we can find it here, but we'll have to finish the other muscles here, the muscles of the back and shoulder. From here, what we see is the trapezius muscle. Okay, so the trapezius muscles draw the limb backward, because you remember the pectorals draw the limb forward. So the trapezius muscles draw the limb backward like this. Okay, so if it contracts, it moves the limb this way. The pectorals go this way. All right. So we have the clavotrapezius. Okay, this forms the back of the neck, and then this is the acromiotrapezius, right above the scapula. Okay, and then in this region. Okay, in this region, this starts from the last thoracic vertebra, and so we refer to this as the spines of the last thoracic would be the spinotrapezius. All right. So now we press on the four limbs together. And then, all right. So we make an incision at the back. Okay. So we cut some of the trapezius muscles. I'm removing some of the fat at the back, so don't have to worry about it. Okay. So I will have to transfer the pins here, because we will cut on the left side of the rabbit. Okay, so we make an incision at the back here, the back of the clavotrapezius. Can you see? Okay, and mababaw lang. You will notice how I hold the scalpel as if you were using a ball pen, right? So that you can control the pressure you're applying on the scalpel. Do not apply too much pressure, because you should not go very deep. Okay. Okay. This muscle here, you remember this muscle in the frog is the latissimus dorsi. Okay, from the back here into here. So I will have to identify it already, because I'm going to cut it now here. Okay. Don't forget, hold the arms together and then make an incision. Okay? Do not cut too close to the scapula because you will cut the serratus ventralis. That's another muscle that we will identify later on. Okay. So we continue. The back of the neck is covered by a layer of muscle called the splenius. Okay? And then this part here is the rhomboideus. Okay? Rhomboideus. And the rhomboideus is continuous up to the neck as the rhomboideus capitis. It goes up here, up to the neck. Okay? Rhomboideus capitis. Now, if we cut through here, okay. Okay, so we can see let's start from this side now. Now, this is part of the epaxial muscle. Okay, this is part of the epaxial muscle. So, we will identify them later on. We'll have to continue down here. Right? So, at the same time, what we can do is we cut through the neck. Okay? We have to cut through here. Now, before we do that, we have to separate some muscles. Like this one here. You can see it's very slender. This is the levator scapulae ventralis. Okay? Levator scapulae ventralis. Number 16. Okay? And then, if we deflect some of the muscles here, alright, now we can see, okay, this one is the levator scapulae ventralis, and this one, where does it come from? From the clavicle. The clavicle. And so what muscle do we have coming from the clavicle to the mastoid? The cleidomastoid. Okay? So the reason why we were not able to show it earlier is because it is covered by the clavotrapezius. Okay? So this is the cleidomastoid, number 17. Okay. So if we move this forward, okay, we now go back to the chest. So earlier we told you that you have to make sure you don't damage this part because these are the pectorals now. Okay? This muscle here is the pecto antebrachialis. Pecto antebrachialis. Okay? The pectoralis major follows after that. And then you would say, why is it relatively small? Well, it is not small. It is up to here, but it is partly covered by the pecto antebrachialis. Okay? So we have the pectoralis major. And then, can you see that this muscle is brownish and this is whitish? Okay, this is the minor and this is the cipi humeralis. How do you know that it is the cipi humeralis? This is the cipi sternum. Okay, remember? This the cipi sternum. So the muscle goes from the cipi sternum into the brachium as the humerus as the cipi humeralis. Okay? So, minor is number 9. Major is 19, minor is 20, and CP humerales is number 21. Okay? So we are now ready to cut the pectorals on the left side. Okay. So as you can see, the forelimb swings loose from the trunk. Okay? The forelimb is not connected to the trunk by bones. It is connected to the trunk only by muscles. Okay? So here, we can see the serratus ventralis. The pan-shaped muscle here is the serratus ventralis. Okay, and let's see if we can still find the scalenes. Okay, so these muscles going that way would be the scalenus or the scalene muscles. Alright, we did not discuss the skeletal system, but this is in the scapula, this is the supraspinous fossa. Okay, supraspinous fossa is a depression, and so in that supraspinous fossa is a large muscle that we call the supraspinatus. Okay, so let's put the pins here now. Okay, supraspinatus, and then here, if you are wondering what we are deflecting, this is still the latissimus dorsi. Okay? So, I will just remove some of them. Okay? So, since this is the supraspinous fossa, this then is the infraspinous fossa. So, the muscle in that is the infraspinatus. Okay? And then, underneath, okay, is under the scapula is subscapularis. Okay? Subscapularis here. Alright. And then, posteriorly, we can see the teres major. Okay? There is a muscle here. Yeah. Can you see the difference between this part of the muscle and this part? Okay? They are of a different color. And there is a demarcation here. Okay? Supraspinatus, infraspinatus, and the teres major. Okay, number 27, because the other one here is the subscapularis. Okay? Next, we will identify the deltoids. Okay, the pectorals here. And then at the back, we identify the trapezius. Okay, trapezius here. Now, we also have the deltoids. Okay, the deltoid. Okay. Okay. All right. So you have this part. Okay, this is different from the this part of the deltoid is attached to the spine of the scapula. So because it's attached to the spine, it is called the spinodeltoid. Okay? Now, this part of the deltoid is attached to the acromion process of the scapula. The scapula goes like this, and there's an acromion process. And so, from here, this muscle is attached, and so we call it the acromiodeltoid. Okay? Now, this leads us into the upper arm. Okay? So, here we have number 30. Okay. This whole thing here occupies the posterior portion of the upper arm. Is the triceps brachii. Triceps. So that means that we will identify 3 heads. Okay, 3 heads. So this is the long head of triceps brachii. And then this is the lateral head of triceps, and then if you deflect this, you can see the muscle inside here is the medial head of the triceps brachii. Okay, so all of them inserts on the elbow here, but takes origin on the proximal end of the humerus. Okay? The triceps brachii again, the long head, the lateral head, and the medial head of the triceps brachii. Brachium is the upper arm. Okay? Is the upper arm. And so, if we look at this muscle, this is the brachialis. Okay? This is in the anterior portion of the upper arm. Alright, so we call this the brachialis. And then, by what name did we call this one? Alright, anteriorly here, anteriorly we call it the clavotrapezius. Okay, so the clavicle is here. So this is now from the clavicle to the brachium. Okay, clavobrachialis. Okay, the clavobrachialis. And then, if we move inside here, you still see, this is the biceps brachii. So you have a triceps, you have a biceps. Okay, so this is what you flex now when you biceps. All right. And then, here you have a muscle, a thin muscle called the epitrochlearis. Epitrochlearis. Okay? And if we deflect that, we can see the long head of triceps. Okay? Ayun yung long head of triceps here. If we pass this pin here, you can see that it comes out here. Okay? So that is the long head of triceps. Right? So we now move on to the forearm. Okay? In the forearm, there are 10 muscles. Okay? 10 muscles. So the muscles on the lateral side are extensors. Okay? And the muscles on the medial side are flexors. Okay? So, we may have to start from the ulna. So, this is the ulna. Alright? So, the first muscle here is the flexor extensor. If it is lateral to the ulna, it is an extensor. So, we identify this as the extensor carpi ulnaris. Okay? And then you have extensor please check which comes first, the extensor digitorum lateralis or communis. let's check here, no? I'm confused whether this is lateralis or the communis, extensor digitorum lateralis, extensor digitorum communis, 39. And then here is the extensor carpi radialis. This is now on the upper portion. Okay? So that now becomes the radialis. Now this may also be seen, extensor siya, no? Extensor carpi radialis. The one on the lower portion with the elbow is the ulna, so it's ulnaris. But this one is right above the arm, so it is the radialis. Okay? Now, if we look at it from this side, okay, this one comes out here. So this part here, this is still the extensor carpi radialis. Okay? And then, there's a muscle here. Can you see this slender muscle here? Kita niyo ba to? Yung nakalabas. And when we were skinning the rabbit, we told you to make sure you don't damage the brachioradialis. Okay? So, some terms are confusing here. The clavobrachialis, the clavobrachialis.
Number, sir. 9. Yun yung higher ng 9, sir.
No, the clavotrapezius, no? From the neck, you start with the clavotrapezius, and then you go down the clavobrachialis. But then you have the biceps brachii, but on the other side is the brachialis. And then this time, it is the brachioradialis. Okay? Number 41. Okay. And then where is the other muscle? This is already the pronator teres. Ayun. Neck. Okay. A triangular muscle here. Okay. So again, this is this is brachioradialis. What is beside it? The extensor carpi radialis. But on the medial side is the flexor. No? Nasa loob na eh. So flexor carpi radialis. And then you have a triangular muscle here, the pronator teres. Okay? And then a very large muscle here is the palmaris longus. Okay? Palmaris longus, number 44. And then, if we deflect the palmaris longus, we will find the flexor profundus digitorum. The flexor profundus digitorum. And then, that leads us now into the flexor carpi ulnaris. Flexor carpi ulnaris.
Okay, stop.
Okay, can you see the ribs? Alright. Yung ribs, so between the ribs would be your intercostal muscles. So there is a superficial and a deep intercostal. Okay? There are two layers of the intercostal, and so we'll put number 47 there. Okay? The intercostal. So that should be the muscle between the ribs. Ito yung spay ribs. Okay? And okay, and then number 48 would be the, okay, ito kanina is the serratus ventralis, the fan-shaped muscle. And so we will continue here. So the ribs go this way, the intercostals go that way, the serratus dorsalis go that way, above the ribs. Okay? So we put the two pins close together. This one is intercostal, the other one is superior, serratus dorsalis. Because this one earlier is the serratus ventralis. Okay? Alright. So we move on to the
Muscles of the
tumatas. Okay? The obliques. You remember that in the frog, you have two obliques. Two obliques. Actually, only one oblique. The other one is not an internal oblique, but it is the transversus abdominis. We identify it by the direction of the fibers. Okay? The external oblique goes posterior ventral. The internal oblique goes underneath anteroventral, going down but going to the front. And then the third one, which is what we find in the frog, not that the internal oblique, would be the transversus abdominis. It goes across the abdomen. So transverse abdomen, transversus abdominis. So what we have done is we cut, okay, we made a first cut here, and then we lifted that and we have the external oblique. And then we made another cut, and so that should be number 49 here. And then internal oblique, number 50, and number 51, the transversus abdominis. Again, we can identify this by the direction of the fibers. External is posterior ventral, going down but going to the back but downwards. Anterior ventral going to the front but downwards. And then across is transversus abdominis. That's the third. Okay? And then here, you remember the linea alba. Okay? Alright? The linea alba, white line, is between the two layers here called the rectus abdominis. So you remember in the frog, there are what we call the abs. Actually, there's abdominis, and they're cut into fragments by the inscriptionis tendinae, but it is not very, very prominent in the rabbit. Okay? So we'll put pin number 52, okay, in the rectus abdominis. Okay? And then we go to the back. You remember that there are epaxial muscles. So the obliques came from the hypaxial muscles, and the epaxial can now be found here. Okay? So we start with, alright, on the back portion, on the lumbar region, if we remove some of the connective tissues, we can find a muscle, okay, on the spines of the lumbar vertebrae, and this is the multifidus spinae. Okay, multifidus spinae. This continues anteriorly. Can you see the brown portion here? Okay, this is a continuation of the multifidus spinae into the head as the semi-spinalis dorsi. Okay, semi-spinalis dorsi. Now, you remember in the frog that there are muscles here. Okay, and what did we call that? The longissimus dorsi. Okay, so longissimus dorsi, number 55. Now, if you pull this connective tissue covering the the longissimus, you can find that there is another muscle there which is not part of the hypaxial. Okay? So we refer to this as the iliocostalis. Okay? The iliocostalis. So this forms the epaxial muscles. Right? So instead of a dorsal longitudinal bundle in the fish, we now have this as the epaxial muscles of the mammal, as exemplified by the rabbit. Okay? So, we move on to the leg. Alright. So, alright. So, you have a small muscle here, the gracilis minor. Okay? Sorry. The gluteus medius rather. Alright? Gluteus medius. And then, this is followed by the gluteus maximus. Okay? Maximus is a large muscle here. And then, let me show this to you. This muscle here is a small muscle, slender muscle called the caudofemoralis. Caudofemoralis. So we'll put number 59 there. Now this muscle that I'm holding, okay, forming the posterior part of the thigh is the biceps femoris. You will recall that in the frog, this is the iliofibularis, a very, very slender muscle between the vastus muscles and the semimembranosus. But in mammals, you can see that it's a large muscle here called the biceps femoris. Okay? Number 60. Biceps femoris. Okay? Now, beneath the biceps femoris is a very, very slender muscle called the tenuissimus. Okay? Tenuissimus. And then, alright, this one is the adductor magnus, but this can be seen from the other side. Okay? And what is this? The anterior portion of the thigh in the frog is occupied by the vastus muscles. Okay? And so you have the vastus lateralis, the vastus medialis, and the vastus intermedius inside. Okay? But what is this round muscle here? This is the rectus femoris. Okay? This is a round muscle, the rectus femoris. Right? You don't have to cut this, but just to show you how it looks like. And to show you the vastus intermedius. Okay? So this is the muscle. It's a round muscle here, round stout muscle, the rectus femoris. Now, in the frog, the three vastus muscles, externus, internus, intermedius, or here the vastus lateralis, medialis, intermedius, plus the rectus femoris, constitute a muscle with four heads. So it is now called quadriceps femoris. So instead of saying triceps, three heads, we now call it the quadriceps femoris. Quad, four heads. Okay? But one insertion. Alright? So that should be a different term now. Instead of a triceps femoris in the frog, we have the quadriceps femoris in the mammal. Okay? Still, this is the... incidentally, we pointed out to the vastus intermedius here. Okay, nasa loob, it's inside the... We need another pin. We put pin number 64 on intermedius.
Plus the
So we put number 65 on rectus femoris. Okay? And then we're missing the sartorius here, number 66. Alright? Alright, so covering the posterior medial side of the thigh is the gracilis. Okay? So it covers this part, and this is the semimembranosus.
Number 68, sir?
68. Okay? And then this partly covers a stout muscle here called the semitendinosus. Okay? Semimembranosus, semitendinosus. Okay? Now going up here, below the vastus medialis is the adductor magnus. Okay? It's
Number-
triangular, number 70.
70.
Okay? And then this is a slender muscle that's long. So this is adductor magnus, this is adductor longus. Okay? And this large muscle here is the adductor femoris. Right. So we move down here. Alright? So this is now the thigh, the shank rather. And so the anterior portion of the shank is covered by the tibialis anterior. Okay? If we deflect this a little, alright, so you can see the peroneus. Alright? So the tibialis anterior partly covers the peroneus. And behind it is the extensor digitorum longus. Now, you can see the gastrocnemius here. Alright? And if we deflect that a little, we'll find that there is a small muscle sharing a common insertion with the gastrocnemius. This now is called the soleus. The soleus. Okay? 26. So again, this is the lateral head of the gastrocnemius. Alright, so if we go to the medial head of the gastrocnemius, we can see that there is another muscle that shares an insertion with it in the tendon of Achilles. This is now called the plantaris. The plantaris. Okay? And then here, alright, this is the tibia. So this is tibialis posterior. Okay, the tibialis posterior. And behind that is the counterpart of the extensor digitorum longus here. So this is now the flexor digitorum longus. Okay. So number 80 we have identified earlier as the adductor femoris.